Hey guys, BippyMan here. Daily, us humans emulate a lot of things that we see. From wrestling moves to the way we walk, the way we talk, we emulate almost everything in our entire lives. Even games can be emulated, and now those games have infiltrated the Apple App Store. Delta is the new but old emulator that is now on the App Store that is just taking everybody by storm. Everybody's downloading it. It's #1 as a free app, and it is amazing. Unless you're in the jailbreaking community, you might not actually know about Riley Testa and Delta. Delta's been around for quite a while, but you're here now, so let's get into the review and I'll give you a little backstory on Delta. And if it's your first time here, please consider liking and subscribing to the channel. Everything gaming is my domain and I'm feeling like Gojo today, so please comment down below and hit the notification bell so you don't miss a video. And before I start this video, piracy is wrong. You should be dumping your own games. You should be getting all your own ROMs, BIOS files, everything. Emulation's not wrong, but piracy is. Please buy your games. Thank you guys. Now in my headcanon, I believe Delta started as an alt store exclusive app. DS was in beta, and the app mostly only worked with Game Boy Advance, Game Boy Color, and Game Boy games. Now the app has grown into a powerhouse that can use many different cores from other emulators. Game Boy Advance, Game Boy Color, Game Boy, DS, Super Nintendo, regular Nintendo, and the N64 were all supported, making all retro games so easy to use, all just on your iPhone. Life couldn't be better for modern day kids, even if they probably don't appreciate this achievement. Jailbreaking was a phenomenon when I was growing up. I've been jailbreaking devices since my old iPod Touch. I was probably 12 years old, trying not to brick all of my devices. Jailbreaking, and after finding the software you needed, was horrible. It took hours of research and praying someone had a YouTube tutorial back then. Each separate system had its own emulator back then, most of these emulators barely working, and almost all of them had janky controls, especially on the iPhone. You couldn't connect a controller or plug in a backbone, so touch controls were all you had, and you had to pray your touch was registered. Delta overcame and really added all the improvements and necessary updates to combine almost all retro Nintendo systems into one small app flawlessly. Emulation. From Game Boy to Nintendo 64, almost all emulation in Delta is absolutely flawless. I've been spamming DS games and I'm telling you, every single one has played flawlessly. No glitches, no errors, nothing wrong. I actually have some gameplay on the screen right now and you can see how good these games are. The skins are also amazing. I mean, look at the pink DS one. It looks absolutely great. It just brings you back to the time when you were playing these games and it makes these games look great. You have a fast forward button for most emulators, and you have save states where you can save at any time. Also, the emulator even auto saves if the emulator closes out by accident or something happens. I feel like everything has been thought out by Riley Testa, and emulation on this app appears to be a 10 out of 10. Controls. Controls are iffy because I'm not sure if I should consider other controllers in this review. Not all users of this app have a separate controller to really make games perfect while using this app. Touch controls suffice for slower games like RPGs or SRPGs, but a faster game like Kirby or Castlevania was extremely hard to play using touch controls. Touch controls do have rumble behind them, which makes it feel as if you're touching a physical button, but missed button presses and weird inputs really do put a damper on this category. If I include the backbone and different Bluetooth controllers, well, obviously the category will be a 10 out of 10. If I don't include those controllers, I'd say controls are about a 6 out of 10 when we're only using touch controls, but if we're gonna use any other gaming controller, it should be a 10 out of 10 because Bluetooth with those works very well. Setup. Setup for this emulator is extremely easy if you've already used it before. I had Alt Server and Alt Store previously. The setup was very familiar to me and streamlined. If you aren't used to dumping ROMs and BIOS, then I can see how this setup is confusing and would have a barrier of entry. Learning almost everything about ROMs as a kid helped me in this category. Most emulators can be used as soon as you add a ROM, but DS does need BIOS that you will have to dump from your childhood DS. Any other way of collecting ROMs or BIOS is illegal. For veterans, this setup is easier than ever. Not using Alt Store and using the Apple Store makes things much better. I would say setup for a veteran is a 10 out of 10. But if you're a newer user, I would say the barrier of entry is high and it is very hard to probably get this started correctly if you're not pirating. So for that reason, I would give it a 5 out of 10. My experiences. Over the years, I've used Delta extensively, but gaming on the iPhone has never been my favorite. I first started my emulation journey on the PSP. Hacking that handheld changed my life. From there on, I had to hack every single device I had, if possible. I hacked my 3DS, my PS4 Pro, my Xbox Series S, multiple iPhones, you name it, it's hacked. Even though I did always play on iPhone from time to time, that experience before connecting external controllers wasn't really worth my time. Slow RPGs are enjoyable, but even in most of these games, the janky movement would cause multiple random encounters. Even from day one, I felt the emulation was solid and the touch controls had marginally gotten better over time. And as a consumer, I love revisiting old games that molded my childhood. Playing on my iPhone's bright screen makes games that on such low resolution screens looked bad, but now they look incredible. This app is a no-brainer for the consumer, most consumers believing that this is better for the market. However, Nintendo might soon become wary of Delta, if they aren't already. Nintendo did just slap Yuzu with the ban hammer, taking the emulator off the internet. Will Nintendo partner with Delta, go after Delta, or leave Delta alone completely? Looking back at history, you would think Nintendo would 100% do something about Delta. We've already spoken about Yuzu, but Nintendo also went after Dolphin when Dolphin tried to enter the Steam marketplace. Valve knows Nintendo has a strong legal team and blocked access to that emulator. Delta can cause damage to Nintendo through the access of these retro games. Nintendo Switch Online services give retro games, but with the ease of piracy and dumping, a much wider gaming library is now accessible. If you don't pirate, then you'll be paying a lot to play games on your phone, but for those sneaky One Piece characters, they now don't see what the Switch offers as much. Other emulators now will pop up in the Apple App Store as well, causing a never-ending legal battle for Nintendo. Delta has existed for quite a long time, but now being this accessible, Nintendo may feel compelled to attack. Nintendo could also work together with Delta to maybe distribute older games to the App Store officially. I believe working together with passionate fans is better than going against them. Nintendo has a reputation for protecting their brand, and I understand that they have the right to do so, but how I see it, if you don't live and breathe for the fans, one day they won't live and breathe for you either. It's better to keep the fans happy and develop a vision that includes them than being the bully that doesn't have any fans in the end. Investors could care less though, and most likely things will never change in the end. So what are your thoughts on Delta? Have you guys used it yet? Have you been playing it all the time like me? I have so many games dumped and I've been playing it non-stop. Although I do use a controller at times, I still love it even when I don't have the controller. I hope you guys have liked this video. I hope you're going to consider subscribing to my channel. That comment better already be down there because I know that you're itching to get into this conversation. Thank you so much for coming to the channel, watching this video, and BippyMan, I'm out. See you guys.
Bet your sweet Bippy I did.